Okay, hello. Here we have a Commodore 64 tape deck, looking pretty clean because I stripped it down and gave it a good clean. Unfortunately, I made a stupid mistake. I put that screw through there. I put it through the power supply to the motor. Oops, silly mistake. When I plugged it into the Commodore 64, it then blew the fuse in the Commodore 64. So luckily it was just that went. So of course I had to then replace the fuse with those rather longer than average fuse, 1.5 amp fuse, 32mm long if you need any. So today we're going to try and repair the damage that I did to this cassette deck. Should just be a case of soldering the damaged wire that I broke back together. Fingers crossed. These are dead easy to take apart and dead easy to put screws through wires when you put them back together. If you're not paying attention and you're doing it in a lounge instead of your workshop. Incidentally, if anyone was just been watching the Spectrum 48K keyboard membrane replacement video, everything went fine on that. It's all back together and working fine. But one thing to mention, the new membrane I bought, although it works great, it's just a £10 thing from Amazon. When I put the two halves of the case together, the membrane must have been touched the electrics on the inside. It must be conductive on the whole strip. So when I closed the case, the keys would stop working. So it's just worth mentioning. But if you are to replace the membranes on one of these with a new one, I had to put some electrical tape along one edge of each of these connectors, so when it goes in the case and folds down, this bit here wasn't resting across electronics, and that seemed to make it work. But before that, it would work until I screwed together, and then 0 and P and that sort of side, the keys wouldn't work. So anyway, back to this now. These are, like I said, they're pretty easy to take apart, I think. Literally, ta-da! As you can see, I've cleaned it. It's a bit yellow, but that's okay. Now here is the damage I did. As you can see, that was there, I think, when I screwed it back together, and the screw went through it. I think the black is okay. I had a little chip out of it, but nothing to worry about. So my job today is hopefully repair the damage I've done. So it should just be a matter of resoldering it. Find where I've got my tools. These are pretty good. So before we solder them together, we need some heat shrink. I should have planned ahead and got ready, but I haven't, so bear with me. heat shrink. So a nice thin one. Ideally it'd be red just for consistency, but black would do fine. You don't want it the entire length for that. About half that length probably is fine. Keep that bit for another day. Now, how am I gonna get these two bits together? That's the question. There's not a lot of play in the wires to give me much room. Do some helping hands. I'll just try and play it by ear. Make it up as we go. Solder it. Where's my tip tin? Instantly, this tip tin of stuff is amazing. Yes, I'd normally have my fan on to extract the fumes, but it might make it a bit hard for you to hear me then. Flux. There you go, that's looking pretty good. I think what we might do, we'll just try it. Say tin those up, but you might need a little bit of flux on them. Can't really emphasize how much flux is really useful. When I started soldering, by no means an expert, I didn't bother with adding flux. But it really does make a difference. As does keeping your soldering iron clean, which I learned the hard way. Okay, let's see whether we can get that to adhere. Give it a second to cool. Not the best job ever, but I think that will do. I don't know if you can see that okay, it's good enough. So we'll put the heat shrink over it, hopefully. Yeah. The heat shrink really will hold the two bits of wire together. It does a wonderful job. You can use electrical tape Black electric tape is fine. Possibly in some ways better, but let's try and be professional about it. Job done. Hopefully. Let's switch that off. So, okay, good way to test. You can use a multimeter, and there's the positive and ground is those two pins there, if you can see them. So if I check them now, make sure they're not shorted anymore, which they shouldn't be, obviously, because the wire was broke. Then at least if I plug it up to the Commodore, it hopefully won't blow the fuse. Just using a multimeter on continuity test. It's not the best multimeter ever, but it does the job. Just two wires. If it's shorted, it will tell me. It doesn't matter which way around we put them in. That wasn't good sound, was it? Yep, that's fine. That was me touching the probes together on the inside, see? But on the actual contacts, it's no longer shorted. So we'll quickly screw this back together. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if I don't put any screws through the wires this time, it won't blow the Commodore. So to clean the case was simply unscrew it, take the electrics out, put it in the wife's washing up bowl with some washing up liquid, use one of the spongy pads, give it a good clean, and put it back together. Whilst I had the electrics out, I did some isopropyl alcohol on the tape heads, just with one of these cotton wool bed things. So that is job done. Hopefully, I plug that in, cassette deck fixed. And just for comparison, if you'd like to see, this is a non-cleaned one compared to a cleaned one. There's no retro brighting done, just literally wife's washing up bowl with washing up liquid and a bit of a scrubby pad. I think I wiped it down with anti-bac wipes first, because that tends to remove a lot of the grime as well, and sanitize it obviously. Just for comparison, you can see the cleaned one compared to a non-cleaned one. Big difference. So we'll see if this one comes up nice and clean once we know that this one is fully working again. Thanks for watching. See you next time.